All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Season 3, Episode 3 of the Fortinet Series podcast with your host here, Chris Dorn. Joining today, of course, as always, Israel Quintero, our co-host, and two special guests from Fortinet Direct today. So Andy Crocker, the Director of the Partner Service Program, and Rebecca Braille. Did I say it right this time?
It's much easier than it looks, bro.
Yes,
As if it were
bro.
BRO.
BRO. Okay, I tried to get.
Come on, bro.
I
Go,
tried
bro.
to. I tried to get a little fancy with it and pronounce it as it was kind of laid out. But thank you, Rebecca. It's a pleasure as always having you here. And you're our director, systems engineer, solutions engineer, everything technical. You really help us out on the channel. So thanks a lot for being here today, guys.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. All right, we got a couple talking points. We've had a little break here, so this is really the first one we've cranked up for the year. So we kind of wanted to hit this with a couple topics that we wanted to look at, starting with some of the hardware changes that we got coming down the pipeline. Of course, we want to look at FortiSASE as that's continually a hot topic and something customers are very interested in. And then I think we can all agree, Fortinet Accelerate coming up the first week of April here. We're kicking passes out left and right. People are getting really excited. I got a nice restaurant booked out at the Mandalay Bay for us, so let's do a little bit of review on that as well. But welcome again, guys, and let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's been a while, like Chris said, and Andy, I want to actually talk to you a little bit. So you got a new title. You got like a promotion. You want to talk about a little bit about your new role?
So I'm going to be primarily working with some of our services programs. That we have instituted. They started over in Europe about 2 years ago. They came over here about a year ago. So I've been asked to take on some of those projects, one of which is Iris, which is a bomb building tool that we're real excited about for our partners to be able to accurately build out a bomb of all of our products. So those are two of the biggest products or projects I'm working on now. Also helping with the channel SEs and any activities, special big events that they're doing. I'll be working alongside of them to make sure they get all the support they need from marketing and whatever else they may need. So yeah, it's a little bit different role. Staying pretty busy.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And Chris, I know you sound a little bit sick there, and I know you're getting like the flu or something. So hopefully you do hopefully you get better soon.
But thanks.
So I know with these new APs that everybody's been talking about, apparently everybody's talking about this Wi-Fi 7 already, right? And Fortinet's already in that new build. But with the new release with the G series, everybody has seen the new ones came out, the 431s, the 231s, and all those. But now they have an outdoor. Finally, they took it out, the 432G, the outdoor AP. Kind of cool that they're already expanding their new topics of APs out there.
Yeah, there's a whole series of new hardware that's come out in a lot of our different product lines. And a lot of it hinges on our latest A6 chipset. So that's when you see the G at the end, that's what it's referring to. So that means internally it's got some pretty impressive power for accelerating a lot of different features without having to bump the price, which, for a lot of us and our customers is key. That balance of extreme performance without an extreme price. And then, as you mentioned, the latest and greatest in the AP space for Wi-Fi 7, that's where you see a K at the end.
Yeah,
so that's really
K
pushing
series.
some speed and bandwidth across Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited for that one. Not too many devices support that just yet, but I see a lot of new companies already trying to adapt that, and it will get there pretty soon.
We were the first one to release, the first vendor OEM to actually release a Wi-Fi 7. There's been others that have been talking about it and mentioning it, but we actually released it to be sold. So we were the first to market with the actual device itself. So that's, to your point, Israel, it's very exciting that we were able to jump up very quickly and lead the pack on that.
Yeah, no, I mean that's incredible. I can't actually wait to see one of those. Hopefully in the Accelerate we can be able to see some of them. So I'm kind of excited for that. And I know we have talked about in the past that there's going to be some changes on the actual security bundles on the gates, and they're already out there. You guys want to talk about a little bit of that?
Sure. Well, we've had a couple different, I'll say step forward, advancement in terms of security services, threat feeds, signature databases and libraries and whatnot. And so it's made a lot of sense to group them in bundles in slightly different way. So a couple of big ones, the enterprise bundle, which is kind of the premier support and services bundle that wraps into a FortiGate as an example, has now had the data loss prevention built into it. It's got sandboxing and malware prevention built into it. We did pull OT out. OT got an incredible bump in terms of additional signatures and protocols and whatnot. I think we support over 5,000 different device recognition in the OT and IoT space. So that made a lot of sense to pull out of the bundle to make it more purposeful for those organizations that need it. So that's one of the big ones. And then in the ADC web space, WAF space, we also had some pretty significant improvements there in terms of AI-driven services that can now be bundled in to both our WAF and our ADC and load balancer capability.
Oh, very nice.
So,
that's a big topic
exciting.
around here at XenTegra right now. Load balancing capabilities for sure. So that hopefully we can line that up on the next series here. Not to give away the secrets and what we'll have up on as the next topics, but that's one of the things I'd like to cover in a little more depth.
Yeah, and that one's really hot off the presses too, because I mean we've had like bot protection and whatnot, but this really becomes much more advanced in terms of analyzing behavior, adapting to that behavior, and making it a much more dynamic approach to threat detection from that perspective. So it's groundbreaking.
Oh, wonderful.
And needed, as we know.
Well, that's exciting. We'll definitely pay close attention to that coming down the pipeline here. So maybe that'll be something we can review in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you guys know OT is starting to become like very big now, and I do see Fortinet saw that play, and I think that's why they're making this big change. Us as XenTegra, we're starting to see that because we're actually going to partner up with some other companies and be able to deliver a OT security line out there pretty soon, tying up with Fortinet. So I'm very excited for that as well. And you guys probably haven't heard, but we're already starting a little bit of baby steps, but I think we're going to see a lot more of the OT.
Yeah, it's definitely become a big topic in the past couple of weeks, especially with some of the new customers we've been talking about, where instead of just selling to folks, we're actually partnering with them to help them deliver their solutions. And some of those solutions are focused in the OT area. So it's been great having some updates in the OT stack and the security bundles and everything, and really diving into the security bundles and those protocols and signatures we were chatting about a moment ago. Kind of really seeing what you guys are capable of being able to handle. And you're trumping a lot of the status quo as far as the manufacturers and the technology providers in the OT space in that regard.
Chris,
I think we're lining up our next couple of sessions right here, because there's tons for us to talk about in the OT space. Mm-hmm. We are, absolutely the de facto standard when it comes to cybersecurity in OT. We're leader in a lot of the different, kind of measurements in that space. Andy, were you
Well,
having some
what,
thoughts there.
yeah, I mean, I was, and Chris, it's good, and it's good that you guys are starting to really lean in towards the OT. And what's interesting is that operational technology is not new. I mean, it's been around forever, and people are just now starting to recognize or clearly define the things that would fit under that heading of OT. Like Rebecca said, and Chris, I would suggest maybe even having one of these podcasts specifically surrounding and discussing OT, because it's everything from water management to, I mean, even hospitals have
Energy.
operational technology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's schools have operational technology. Pretty much every industry has it to some degree. So having that knowledge and understanding of how it works. The other thing to always keep in mind when you look at some of the organizations like your oil and gas, they're still utilizing very, very, very old systems. And I'm talking about XP and 7, stuff that it's like you can't even find anymore. So
I
having
recently
the,
heard, Andy, this stat that the typical age of equipment in an OT deployment is 20 years.
yep, that's
Wow.
right.
I believe it.
That's right. And
I
with
believe
us,
it.
with us being able to support that and have those applications, having those all of that, those ways to support that, it does set us aside and set us apart. And that's not even talking about even the hardware that's designed for outdoor and ruggedized. It is a hot topic, and it is something that I'm glad that you guys are going there. And I would suggest doing a podcast just on OT and make it interesting, make it fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
just had a
did.
conversation this week with a few folks about OT, and it was interesting because they talked about this very unique set of circumstances, right? Where you have inside of some of these organizations, you've got the team that's responsible for the operational technology environment, right? The control systems, the sensors, the whether it's a factory with a manufacturing plant or whatever the case may be, right? And their set of requirements is just, it's almost upside down from what a typical IT requirement is, right? Speed and precision and whatnot is not necessarily their number one, or accessibility of services and whatnot. Their number one is it never goes down, right? You think of, I mean, when I was a baby just coming out of college, my first job was at Bethlehem Steel Corporation, and the first day on the job was touch nothing, change nothing, or molten steel might be on the floor, right? It's like it's a
Right.
whole different just level of priority and what requirements are the number 1, 2, 3. And then those systems are kept completely isolated and separate from email and whatever we think of as IT applications. Well, those days are changing, right? So that shift is a tipping point for some new problems that didn't exist before, because now people do want to use their cell phones at the factory floor, and they do want to use other mechanisms to control and access some of those. They want remote workers to be able to control some of the systems in the environment without having to, drive in.
You got it.
That wasn't
Yeah.
a problem 20 years ago. It just
No,
wasn't
it
even on the
wasn't.
radar.
I had a
So.
similar situation where it was a Windows 2000 machine, and you couldn't even load the US English language pack on it. So it was in Japanese. And it was like, do not at all touch it. This thing measures the
Right.
density of the product that comes out of the manufacturing floor. There's nobody on this side of the globe that can support this machine.
Yeah.
So it's very delicate. And like you're stating, we don't want steel on the floor, hot molten steel.
Yeah, so a lot
Well,
of times when we come in there, the first order of business is to create segmentation in the environment to preserve what they don't want touched and still begin to, chip away at the idea of having remote access or whatever to pieces of the environment that are approved. So that's, a lot of times that's the first order of business. So, but anyways, yeah,
Right.
big
And
area
then
for us for sure.
Rehab actually mentioned it, but XenTegra is actually a specialized partner in OT with Fortinet. So that's a great plus with partner up with Fortinet, and any person who's
Absolutely.
listening out there who really wants to talk about OT, I mean, we definitely can have that discussion. And even with people who may think they don't have it, you probably do, and you're using it.
Yeah. In
That's
our case,
correct.
it's the exact same products, right? I mean, we do have versions that are ruggedized for temperature and environmental conditions, but the vast majority of OT environments don't actually need a ruggedized version of equipment. What they need is the brain of that equipment to understand control systems and the protocols, the specialized protocols that exist in those networks. And it does. So that's the very same suite of Fortinet technology already has that built in. So it's really, like you said, they may already have it and don't even realize they have access to this capability. I mean, that's, you know, there's a lot of those hidden nuggets inside of the Fortinet technology where, because of our, I don't know, our approach to licensing or what have you, we don't usually require additional licensing, like to flip on SD-WAN or to flip on ZTNA or to, any number of things. It's just built in.
And that's where
Excellent.
this change came in, right? Because they added more to the OT. So that's why they kind of separated more, because they see more value. And some
Yeah.
customers were not even using it. So it
Yep.
really
So
didn't
it's
make
the
sense to
same
them.
deployed product. You just flip on a feed to it that
Yep.
gives it, the extra information into the environment. Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's been great talking about that, and I love OT. I mean, that's why I went with that. But that's one big topic. But what is the next big topic that everybody's starting to talk about besides load balancing, right? It's SASE. What is SASE, guys? I'm asking you guys. What is it?
Rebecca, you want
Well,
to take that?
sure. I mean, SASE is an interesting topic that the, acronym has been bandied about for a bit, and it kind of evolved from SSE, Secure Service Edge, which was really like the idea of taking um, a secure web gateway or a web proxy and deploying it into the cloud and allowing customers to subscribe to that if they didn't want to host their own, right? So that was in its, inception, that was kind of the use case was, how do we give our remote users a hop to go into that's controlled that we as a customer don't have to manage? So that was like the original, day zero concept. And over time, additional requirements have been kind of added into the mix. So now when we look at what's generally accepted as a secure access service edge or SASE, it needs to have that SWG capability, that secure web gateway. It needs to be a firewall as a service, so as a subscribed service versus a product that the customer hosts on their own. CASB is another one. So CASB is the ability to have visibility and control into services that are deployed in the cloud. So now, what is the user actually going to, right? Not just how the user connects to the network, but what are they going to? So that's really what CASB is all about. SD-WAN is another component that generally is accepted as a required piece, and that is, how do we make the network resilient? How do we make the network select the best path based on performance? And then last but not least, ZTNA, or zero trust network access. So one little sliver of the zero trust concept, this concept of continuously vetting and checking that a user or device that's attempting to access something has been approved, if you will. So rechecking them for, is their identity correct? Is the device they're coming from safe and sound based on our standards and whatnot, and doing that in a continuous fashion. So those 5 core components are now considered SASE. And when customers start to evaluate the myriad of different SASE solutions out there, they need to think about each one of those functions. Is it very effective? Is it doing its job and doing it well? Is it easy to use? Is it easy to manage? How do I onboard my users onto it easily? Can I do that quickly? Or do I have to be a guru? Do they all work together? Are they kind of natively integrated, or do I have to do legwork to make those pieces work together? And then, of course, cost. What's the underlying cost of all of those? Are they bundled together? Do I have to elect which of those functions I want to be able to use or not? And what's my overall total cost of ownership? So those are some of the big things that I see customers starting to contend with, but it really comes down to, at the end of the day, the core use case is all about that remote user. How are they going to give that remote user access into necessary services? And how are they going to make sure that that user is not inadvertently becoming a vulnerability to the protected assets, that they're not a vector, if you will, being used?
I mean,
Great.
Andy, what did I miss?
You didn't. The only thing that I would add is that we're now calling our solution the unified SASE. And the reason we call it the unified SASE instead of universal or single vendor is a few reasons. All those 5 things that Rebecca just mentioned is all included. And keep in mind, it's one solution, right? We're not piecing together various different solutions from that we may have acquired here, there, whatever. It's solutions that we have owned and offered for years. For instance, the ZTNA, that's our FortiClient. The CASB, we've had that for a long time. I mean, and the FortiGate is really the essential part of what that SASE is. But then when you start thinking beyond that, you start looking at digital monitoring. You start looking at paying attention to specific performance metrics from that user perspective. And then you start thinking about always on, right? And if a user is sitting at home working and he's connected to the SASE or to whatever application he needs to via the SASE cloud, that means that when he goes to the office, he automatically it's still either connected to the SASE or he flips over to that local LAN because he's on that LAN. And as soon as he leaves, he's connected back to that SASE again. So it's protecting the environments, protecting the users, protecting the company. And it's, again, I can't emphasize we are the only SASE vendor today that it is one. All the elements of that SASE, what Rebecca just outlined, is all Fortinet. It is not acquired other solutions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's natively integrated. It's already built in, so the customer doesn't have to do anything. They just start using it.
Right.
And I'll add on and say, well, another thing that I think sets us apart is because we are a cybersecurity company. That's one of our first thoughts. Whereas traditional like SSE, which is kind of the predecessor to SASE, was all about just connectivity, straight up connectivity. And security was a little bit of an afterthought. Now I might be causing a ruckus with that one. But generally, I mean, it was really about connectivity and, oh yeah, we better secure it a little bit too, right? And so as a result, a lot of the other solutions that are out there, the first order of business is to just get the traffic connected into the environment, and we'll deal with content inspection later. And our approach is different, right? So that our universal agent that gets deployed down to the remote user's device, right? We call it FortiClient, does all kinds of security stuff before that traffic even hits the network. So there's all this preemptive protection. So the full suite of our endpoint protection services are built into that FortiClient, and that's included in every seat in SASE. So we offer our SASE service in a seat style license. You don't pay by the bandwidth or any of that stuff. So it's by number of users, and each user can have up to 3 devices that before they consume another license. But each one of those devices that user might connect to SASE from is already protecting it in advance before any of that traffic can hit the network. So from an IT perspective, that means all kinds of, control mechanisms are occurring before that traffic can become a vulnerability to my environment. That's key because we all know users are still the number one entry point, like still,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
you
sure.
talk to any, right? You talk to any security, like TAC engineer or whatever, and their first question is, what link did you click on, right?
That's
Because
right.
that's still what
Yep.
it's the first step.
It is.
So,
I've always
And one
kind of looked
thing,
at your guys' solution too. It's like there's not many. There's some vendors that do it well, but there's vendors that don't do it well too. But a lot of them they don't have that soup to nuts kind of visibility and analytics that you need in today's fabrics. And you guys are. I don't know of any other vendor that can really have a user on the other side of the planet and have an access point in the basement, at the main corporate office. Like on the other side of the planet from that user, and then that access point have understanding and knowledge that that user is infected on the other side of the planet, because that fabric is so comprehensive in the insight that it's able to include within itself and provide the administrators and the engineers that have to keep it running from day to day. Because that
well,
user, they might fly back over and pull up in the parking lot. They still got an issue. We got to sandbox them. We're
yep.
aware that they were already an issue before they even pulled up into the parking lot back at the corporate office. And there just isn't. There's not a single vendor that can check off those boxes to secure at that kind of level.
And one thing I do want to mention, so especially for new user listeners, I used to work for Fortinet, and when I was at Fortinet, FortiSASE came out. And Andy mentioned something that what I really want to emphasize, because when it first came out, I hated the thing. I'll admit it. I hated it. It sucked. It had so many bad bugs and everything. But Fortinet have invested heavily, because whenever you guys did that acquisition, you guys found out that it wasn't working that well. So you guys ripped and replaced a lot of the things and pretty much build it up again, brand new.
Yep.
And I think that's the main thing, that's why SASE is so great now. Now my mentality for SASE changed after the changes you guys did, because when I was there, I hated the thing. I really did. And
we
I
learned the
couldn't
hard
sell it.
way.
Yeah.
We
And
learned the
I
hard way
couldn't
that
sell it.
no other vendor can do it, right? We had to, build it from scratch.
Yeah.
Well,
And
really what we were doing was taking mature products and kind of prepping all the integration between them and deploying those out at the various Equinix locations, and the build out of Fortinet's SASE cloud. And the beauty of that cloud, like I mentioned, is that they're all co-located at Equinix locations. So those are the high-speed on-ramps to all of the cloud providers. So with an eye on not just security capability, because every one of our POPs has the full security stack. We don't have partial security stack locations. Every single security POP has every single security function. And they're really intentionally co-located with the on-ramps to the various cloud providers and whatnot. And then we have more recently launched a whole series of those POPs at the Google network locations as well in Google Cloud. So
yeah, you
I
guys
don't
are
know exactly
doing.
where our total is. It's somewhere around 100 security POPs around the world now. So
That's a little over 100. I think 110 or 115, I think is what I heard. It's over
Yeah.
100
Wow.
though.
every
mean,
week the number changes.
And
Sure.
that's the
They're
thing,
installing
right?
at such a tremendous clip. Yeah.
And that's why I start to fall in love. I mean, I started falling in love with it after the improvements and the capability has been gone to. And a lot of even my manager there is like, how come you don't want to do a demo? How come you don't want to talk about SASE? I'm like, because it's not ready. But you guys made it ready
Oh, it's
now.
ready now.
Oh no, it's
Yeah, it's
been
probably
ready
been ready for a
over a
good
year.
year. Yeah.
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 And I'm that type of guy. I'm that sales guy, SE guy, that if I don't think the product is ready, I'm not going to talk about it. And this is a lot of the salespeople probably hate that, but why would I want to have a customer mad at me for giving them false hope? I prefer giving you the proper information and tell you this is the thing that is really well, because happy customers are always repeated customers.
That's right. The other thing to keep in mind about SASE, and Rebecca hinted at it, but I want to stress it even more. SASE can be, I mean, let's back up and say this. Most organizations today are still operating in a hybrid work environment, meaning the employees are not going to the office every day. I mean, even here at Fortinet, a lot of our folks that would work in our offices only work in there 2 to 3 days a week. Most of us in the field, we rarely ever go to an office, if ever. So in a hybrid work environment, that's where this SASE comes to play, because you want to protect those individuals who are working from home, working from a coffee shop, working from an airport, working from a hotel, like Chris is. You know, we got to protect wherever it is, and that's really the key behind FortiSASE, because it takes, to Rebecca's point, the strength of what Fortinet has always done and what we've always provided, and we've extended that down to the I'm going to say the edge. But Israel, you and I have laughed about this before. You can't define the edge. The edge is now so ambiguous. It's kind of funny to even use that phrase, but literally all the way to wherever that user may sit. And that's the power of what Fortinet's unified SASE provides.
So right now,
That's great.
so our future customers or customers that we have right now, or anybody listening, when would they know they might need a SASE product?
If they have a hybrid environment, they need a SASE environment. That's the easiest way to define that, because how are they protecting the remote workers?
Well, let me tell you this, and a lot of people will say, well, I have a hybrid environment. But you know what they tell me? Oh, I have Office 365. Is that a hybrid environment?
That's not a safe environment.
I have no comment to that one, but I mean, I'm just saying this because a lot of people don't realize that. A hybrid environment. What is a hybrid environment? Only because they have a.
So here's the question to that customer. How is their user connecting to Office 365?
Yeah.
What's the mechanism for that, right? And how do you make sure that they're the only one connecting to it, right? So this starts to get into a CASB bit here, right? Which is, because typically, I mean, we use Office 365. I can connect to that through a straight internet connection. That means anybody sniffing around the Panera Wi-Fi can see all my stuff, right?
Yep.
So that's straight connectivity. When we start saying it's more, you know, it's not just getting my remote users connected, but it's getting them connected securely, that's when you need to start thinking about SASE. That's my personal opinion.
Yes. And one of the biggest things I bring up when they say hybrid environment, I mean, they have some data in their actual data center and they have some SaaS applications, right?
Yeah, so I think of hybrid in two spaces. Who are your users? And what are the services or applications that they're trying to access? Because hybrid is used on both sides of that equation. They mean completely different things. And the hybrid nature of users, what I mean by that is me, Rebecca, employee over here, right? Sometimes I'm in my home office, which I have a firewall. You know, it's I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but it's provided by my carrier. I haven't put my Fortinet in yet because I don't know, I'm lazy, right? But it's reasonably secure, but it's definitely not secure to my company's IT standard, right? So it's like pseudo security because it's my home office. I travel, so I'm at Starbucks. I'm wherever I am, right? I'm taking a walk and I'm on my cell phone and I'm doing emails, right? So that's a business application over wherever it goes, to the ether, right? And then on very rare occasions, I go into a corporate office if I happen to travel because I'm not located where our headquarters is, right? So I'm a hybrid user. That means whatever it is that I'm accessing, I'm doing it over a lot of different ways. I expect to be able to connect to that application. I expect to be able to have um, consistent experience accessing those applications, whether I'm sitting at my desk or at a hotel or wherever I need to be. And I am grumbly if I don't get that, not just high level of experience, but consistency, regardless of where I'm coming from and which device I'm using. Okay. The other side of the equation is, what am I going to? Am I going to Office 365, which is hosted in the cloud? Am I going to Salesforce, which is hosted in the cloud? Am I going to, I don't know, one of our applications that Fortinet runs and operates in our headquarters? And what's my experience there? So me as a user, I care about experience, what I'm going to, IT cares about, am I creating a vulnerability for the company by doing all the things I do and not paying attention to,
Mm-hmm.
how they relate to each other? Because users don't usually think about, I have a web browser open where I'm surfing on Amazon and I'm clicking on this, and my kids have opened YouTube and God only knows what the kids have clicked on, all inside my home network. How is that going to affect the business critical applications that I also access? My IT needs to care about that. So
I'm
they
sure they
need to
do.
think about it from a different perspective, right? Locking it down, protecting it from unsuspecting users.
That's why my kids hate
So,
me when they go to my
yeah,
network. I use FortiGates in my home lab and my house, and my kids hate it
yeah,
because they're like, "Daddy, why is this coming up? Why is it blocking it?" Because you clicked something malicious.
Yeah.
right? Yeah. It's like it puts a security-minded brain into the network wherever the user is. So that's the beauty of that, right? It pushes that security-minded
Mm-hmm.
intelligence out to the users. And then it also, because of like the CASB capability, another aspect is IT organizations don't usually have a lot of visibility into the SaaS delivered services. The ones where they're used for business purpose, but IT doesn't actually stand up the application, and they don't have any visibility into the servers behind the scenes that are the quote unquote application. Like Salesforce. Salesforce company is not going to let us into their server farm. So we have no clue what's going on back there, right?
Right.
And we get precious little information about who's accessing it, where did they come from, are they going to things they're supposed to go to, aside from whatever user credentials are exposed to us as the subscriber to the service. So CASB allows a layer in between that for visibility and then control based on that visibility. So it's a game changer to a lot of organizations that are starting to be more refined with how they approach security for their remote and mobile users.
And not only that, I mean, if anybody's under compliances or being audited, this year everything has changed a lot, right? And they're becoming a little bit more strict on what you really need, what are the requirements. And um, just to do a little bit of sidebar, NAC is becoming another big one, but SASE is still a big play due to that security access, being able to have those security features, being able to be protected the same way that you're either at home, at the Starbucks, or at the office. You want to protect that end user because that end user is probably not very techy. So they don't know, right? And they just
Yeah.
click, ooh, $500. If I do this sign up, I just get 500. No, people. Some people don't think about that that's malicious, right? And SASE is a big play. And what I like about the SASE product is that well, VPN is going away. Well, yes and no. But SASE allows you to offload unnecessary information going to your firewall. You're being redirected to where it needs to go to.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about, man, I have to get a bigger firewall. I have to do that. Why? If you don't have a lot of stuff going over there, now that latency is being cut off. You don't have to do that no more. If their home office is in Florida and this person's in California, but he's accessing Salesforce, he doesn't have to go to the VPN through the Florida office and then go to Salesforce. If there's a pop there in California, it's being directed there.
Right.
So it eliminates that latency as well.
Yeah, that's spot
And
on.
are you ready for this impressive segue?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
We will have many of our experienced customers that have lived through the process of selecting a SASE solution, ultimately choosing the Fortinet version of that, which is called FortiSASE, and deploying that and kind of sharing their experience at our upcoming Accelerate conference that's coming at the beginning of April. So we're going to have a myriad of customers presenting and speaking. So if you guys that are listening want to come or bring your customers, they can hear it right from their peers on, you know, what their decision-making process was, how they vetted it, and what their experience is after the fact. Did it live up to, you know, their expectations in terms of what did they need out of the solution? Is it delivering for them?
Well, that just opened up the
awesome.
next topic.
Yeah. As she said, segue. That was a nice play. Nice play. Well played, Rebecca.
Yeah. Oh, and just FYI, this is Rebecca's first podcast. So you're doing awesome, Rebecca. I mean, it's just having a conversation.
I'm a podcast newbie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to a million of them.
Yay.
Never spoken.
Andy has been in too many. But excellent segue. Now, I love Accelerate. I mean, I went last year for my first time, and even when I was an employee, I couldn't even go. Now that I'm in the partner side, I love it. I mean, what is the big highlights of Accelerate this year, guys? Besides what Rebecca just talked about, the SASE.
That's one of the biggest things that we're talking about is our SASE wins and having those customers come and present. It's not only hearing them present, but having the opportunity to chat with them as well, right? Sit down with them over a cup of coffee and really understand and explore why they chose FortiSASE and their experience with it. That's going to be one of the biggest things. Of course, our leaders will be there. Ken Z will be there. Michael Z will be there. John Madison, Matt Play. All of our executives will be there. They'll be making presentations, talking about what's coming down the pipes. It's always exciting to hear from them, especially Ken and his knowledge and foresight. He's always fascinating to listen to. So that's going to be the big thing that we're excited about. I will mention also for this is not really for customers, but for you guys, there will be Pearson VUE will be on site. You have to register ahead of time if you want to take one of the NSE exams. It's limited seating, but that will be there as well. And they will have a Ultimate Fabric Challenge that will be occurring as well, just like they did last year.
So
wow.
You said it, you took my thunder. I was going to say they have a UFC, guys. And no, it's not that Ultimate Fighting Championship, as you guys know. They call it UFC for the Ultimate Fabric Challenge. When they told me, oh, you want to be part of the UFC, I'm like, who am I fighting? They're like, hold on, calm down. But yeah, it was incredible. I actually partayed on that.
You ranked.
I mean, For my first time, and I
You're
partnered up
being
with somebody.
modest.
Well, not really. I mean, I was partnered up with somebody that I didn't even know, and it was his first time ever touching Fortinet, and I
boy.
think we could have gone a little more if he asked for help, but hey, it's
Carried your
okay.
team.
Yeah.
That's all
But
right. I mean, there's a lot of participants, and they run these around the world at a couple of key events, and then have the final
yeah, and Accelerate is the
challenge.
finals,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, it's a
So
championship.
yeah, and not to confuse the audience. So this challenge here is the final. Accelerate is the final. This year's it starts again, but on the experts. That's the other one they have, more technical.
Session, the more
Yeah,
technical.
and that's where the actual start of the UFC starts, and then it ends on the following year at the Accelerate, and they get
So
very
for
nice
those
medals.
Yeah, so for those who don't know what we're talking about, so we should probably back up a little bit. So if you hit up the website, FortinetAccelerate.com, you get all the information about our Accelerate conference. This one is our big one of the year, and it's both technical and business in the same conference. So we bring tons of customers to both present and, as Andy mentioned, just be around for conversation. Because a lot of times, when you bring your customers to an event like this, they don't want to hear the vendor yap at them, right? They want to hear their peers and just the stories of their own experience, right? And what they've lived
Right.
through. And if they had to do it again, with knowing what they know now, how would they rotate on it and, for improvement? So voice of the customer, right? There's also technical sessions, there's workshops for the couple of days after Accelerate. So for the geeks that want, a shot in the arm of technology, there's a lot of that in there too. In addition, of course, to the UFC, which is,
Oh, yeah.
it's Geek Fest. It's a little bit of Geek Fest. We get serious about our UFCs. We give out medallion medals,
Cash
bronze,
prizes.
silver,
The cash
gold.
prize,
We've got an
the
A6
price,
chip built into it. Yeah, we take it
the
serious.
price, and this is so what they happens is in experts, it's divided, right? So they have the US, and then they have I think EMEA and other ones, right? And then at Accelerate, they bring everybody around the world who ranked and compete as the finals.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
Super exciting.
that is fun. And I told Rebecca and Chris, and I think I told you, Andy, I'm gonna place this year. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be
How many
going in
products
there.
were in it? I mean, the concept of it is that you're kind of immersed in this virtual reality environment and given all these tasks to build up the Fortinet security fabric to defend an environment against attacks, right?
Yep.
And so you as the engineer that's participating in the UFC are going through the motions and interacting with a lot of our different technologies and getting them operational and getting them integrated. So it's a fun way. How many products were in there?
There's usually 7 or 8 different products. Last year, SASE was a big piece of it. If I
SASE
remember
and
right.
FortiMonitor was too.
Yeah.
FortiMonitor is another one that really kind of beat me a little bit. But the of course you have your basic stuff that is the firewall, analyzer, manager. So they have different rooms for your NOC and your SOC. Well, I don't want to give it too much away, right? You guys go ahead and read it. Google Fortinet Accelerate, or use or the Fortinet Ultimate Challenge Fabric Challenge. I mean, it's awesome. If you guys have any questions, any comments about it, please reach out to us, and we can definitely talk over about this. I think I can talk about it all day, every day. And maybe I might need a partner. I mean, I already have one in mind, our new guy, James Davis. He's not here with us, but who knows? He might be one of my partners, but I might be looking for another partner just to start off. But Chris, what is XenTegra doing for Accelerate?
We're offering up to 90% off on the conference passes to help get you there. So, I mean, like we saw last year, it was music to our ears. We were looking for something like this as a partner. Fortinet delivered. It was a very community focused, like we talked about, both business side and technical side. They rounded out the event with a major headlining band. Last year was Weezer. Everybody had a ton of fun, tons of memories, and tons of knowledge and experiences that they were able to take home with them. So, bar none, it was the event of 2023 that we participated in, and really looking forward to this one coming up for 2024. You will not be disappointed by any means. So we're doing everything as a partner to get you there, and please reach out to us and let us know how we can help.
And not only that, I found out that when I went, a lot of the clients, their partners didn't bring them. And I'm like, I'm offended. So anybody who's looking to partner with XenTegra, we can get you there. Let's partner up. Let's have that meeting. But that being said, I mean, we're already in top of the hour. Chris, you have anything else you want to talk about, or?
I think we laid the groundwork for the next series. So join us again. I think we'll tackle the FortiWeb and ADC components and dive into that a little bit deeper. But appreciate everybody being here today. This was awesome conversation. You guys have helped XenTegra since day one, so we without a doubt appreciate you guys more than we can express to you both, yep. Andy and Rebecca. And thanks for putting this together.
Right back at you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, right back at you. Thanks for hosting us.